Hello, this is the Ramblings of an Indisciplined Mind podcast for Saturday, November 19th, 2016. So I've got some comments today. I thought I'd go through them. I don't have a ton, so it might be kind of a short show, but we'll see. The first one comes from Ramblings episode 642, My Steak Story. And it's actually a comment from the wife. She says, roast may not have risen to the same level of steak for you because I haven't yet found a foolproof way to cook it so it's perfect every time. As soon as I do, ... It wasn't meant as an indictment on her particular cooking techniques. I was only picking on people that are dead. Even so, I don't know that, just as a cut of meat, I don't think it's my favorite cut of meat, personally. I've had other people's roasts, and sometimes it's fine, but the one I kind of, the one that my mother-in-law can make a roast, and she does a barbecue roast sometimes. That's pretty good, but I love barbecue sauce, so I think that's got more to do with it than the meat itself. So let's see. Also on 642, My Steak Story, Gary writes, I have ordered pot roast twice in my restaurants. Once was at the Blue Gate in Shipshewana, which is Amish land. I've been there, but not been to the Blue Gate. And the other one was at Ted's Montana Grill at Colorado Springs. The one at Ted's was from a bison. It was very lean and rather tasty. Now, bison roast might be interesting. I've never had bison. We used to get these burgers. I call them burgers, but they were like patties that I think you bought them frozen and they were already in patty form, and they were supposed to be buffalo meat. And those were really good. We got those all the time when I was a kid. Those I liked quite a bit. Actually, forgot about that until you mentioned bison. All right, episode 640, Fictional Swearing, where I was talking about the swear words that I was making up for the Nano story I'm working on. Gary writes, it's interesting to see how much work goes into writing a story. So many little details like that make your books fun to read. I listened to an episode of the Melting Podcast where they played a session from Balticon. The speaker went into detail talking about food and meals, how to determine what kind of food they can have based on climate, terrain, government, and such. Writing is not something to be entered into lightly, and that's very true. I like books that have those kind of details in them that really let you see every little bit of what's going on in the world. Not to the point where you're reading through pages and pages of minutia, but where it really flavors the world. Probably one of the best examples of that I can come up with would be J.K. Rowling with the Harry Potter series. I mean, you have very specific food, you have very specific vocabulary. You have, it's a whole different world that's living alongside our world, but it has a lot of things about it that are separate and unique. And I think that's one of the things that makes it feel so real. So I've always appreciated that in things that I read, and I try to do that in what I'm doing. So like on one of the young adult science fiction thing that I've not yet published, I generated from that because that's it's got some comedic elements to it, and so I kind of tried to riff a little bit on like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, not Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, excuse me, Stainless Steel Rat. Maybe a little Hitchhikers too, but as far as how things looked and what the displays look like and how they interacted with humans. I did try to go for a very particular aesthetic for that. So I like those kind of details. I think it helps bring the world to life, and so I try to instill that in my writing. It's a little bit harder to do in something like the Nest Relevant books because they're happening in our world. I could do some things with the PDA and the program that Bertrand created to work with it. But for the most part, it's real world stuff. So I can't make up a whole lot of details there. So that's what's kind of freeing about something like this. This is a culture that came from an established Earth-based culture, but it's been hundreds of years. They spent something like 250 years on the generation ship getting there, things changed. So while they do have a grounding in Japanese culture, and when they leave isn't even our timeline, so it's going to change so further. They're kind of their own beast, and I can riff off of that, and that's kind of fun. I can kind of make things up as I go. At least that is the license that I'm giving myself in this book. And then Ramblings episode 637, What Have I Been Up To? That was the one where I read what my alter egos have been doing, coming from my Google alerts based on my name. And Gary says, that was an awesome episode. Maybe you could do an occasional episode using people who listen to your podcast. Who would I choose to do that with? I am not sure. It was a lot of fun. That one tickled me to death. I really enjoyed doing that one. So that was a great time. That was a great time. And that's all I got today for feedback. But I do have some. I'm happy to share it with you. And we'll see. Hopefully we'll get more for next week. I mentioned that I'm going to be on vacation next week, and that is true, but I am planning on, the schedule for next week that I'm planning on is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I am planning on putting episodes out, because I will be writing, but I'm not going to be all that super busy, I don't think. So yeah, I am planning on putting some episodes out. I'm also planning on getting out an episode of the Time Out Podcast with an excerpt from the book I'm working on. So if you're not subscribed to either the Meta feed or the Time Out Podcast feed, but you want to hear that, now's the time. But I will let that be that. I will be back on Monday, and I'll be talking to you then. So, be seeing you.